Hello, it's Burgess Taylor from Journey with Burgess, and this is my new project planner. It is the Charmed Life, or Alexis Trenchcoat's new planner. It's called the Master Plan. And I thought this would be a really good way to, after seeing it, when she did the video on YouTube and then Miss Vicky V did the review of it, thought it would be a really good way for me to project plan. I am doing the Miracle Morning or the Level 10 Life, and this is my first day, my official start. I did my morning, my savers. I actually got up this morning at 6 o'clock, about a quarter after 6. I made the bed, I did my morning routine, and it is now not even quite 10 o'clock, and I have been busy already. I went to bed very early for me. I was asleep by, I don't know, I was asleep by 10 o'clock last night. So, in the very first part of this, she talks about identifying your priorities. So I listed my top 5, which would be consistency, growth, creativity, quality of life, financial independence, and freedom. Now, a lot of these haven't really changed since the beginning of the year. I have my beginning of the year right here in front of me, my mind map, and I broke it down into different areas, which I will do in this later, which is why I put it on a post-it note. So I have items like DIY projects on this mind map, revamp my morning routine, which I'm working on now, self-care, home, blog, Patreon, family and friends, health, creativity, and finances. And I also have some other things like YouTube and Instagram, but those are more or less, they have to do with growth and consistency. I need to work on this area. So the next portion of the planner goes more into detail about establishing your routine and building positive habits, functional planning, and taking action. And then you get to the monthly plan. So I figured I'd go through and read more of the other stuff that she has in here later, but I wanted to go ahead and set up May. Now I realized when I did this, I should have done the pen test first. Otherwise, I may not have used that, the TWSBI Mini fountain pen with that ink, because it did bleed through in just a couple of little spots, but you're going to see the pen test later. You see me turn over the page and look, and I was like, oh, okay. So I do faux lettering. I'm not a good letterer. I'm not even sure that's a real term, y'all. But anyway, so I used my Faber-Castell pens, and along with a few other different pens, like the, I think it's the multi-ball, and I used a couple of different kinds of pens. So basically, I wrote down my month, and this has to do with work. And now I did add things like pick up Victor, because that affects my work schedule, because I have to pick him up from school at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays, and that affects my work schedule. Everything I need to get done, I need to get done before I pick him up or after he goes home, because there's not I can do a little bit while he's here, but not very much. Sometimes I'll bring it back here and I can film a little while he draws or colors, but he also has homework and different things like that, and he wants snacks, and so I usually choose to spend quality time with him. We go out in the yard and we do things like that. So it really does affect my work schedule when I pick up Victor. And I did add washi tape. I am decorating. I picked the same music theme that I picked for May. About the only real decorations you're going to see in this is going to be the washi tape, some different colored pens, and the different colored mild liners. You will see where I highlight things depending on what they are, and I didn't highlight everything. Like I highlighted, once you see, it will get to a point where you'll see this. I highlighted when I want to do live videos. And one of them has a question mark because I'm not quite sure that I will be able to do a live. It might end up happening on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. Really just depends on my patrons. But I thought on the 14th of May, I might do a live YouTube video, a mid-month sort of plan as you go review where I talk about it. and how it's going and what I've learned, because April has been a trial couple of weeks for me. I guess I should say a trial week for me, because I've never ever done a plan as you go. And it is actually quite a bit of work. If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not all that great at editing videos. I do the basics. I do just enough so that I don't have 5,000 cajillion ums and so's in there. I do leave some. But with these plan as you goes, which is why I chose to do this one with a voiceover, because I listened to some podcasts while I was doing this. If I had not time-lapsed it just a tiny bit, and I had not done the voiceover, you would have had really long pauses in between me talking, and I wouldn't have been able to get as much done because I really needed to listen to that podcast. There were a couple of them. I listened to Cindy Gwintart-Baldo's, a couple of her podcasts. It took me about an hour and a half to do some of this because I set up things. I did the pen test. I had to keep hitting record every like 8 minutes or so. I had to find things. I flipped back and forth between the Hobonichi and my Omni Journal and this project planner because I have some of my projects listed in different places. And while I was doing this project, because I think it's really important that I get on a better schedule for things. Now, it's a tentative schedule because real life happens. And with real life means sometimes if I don't start filming a day ahead for some of these things, then I've noticed that real life intervenes and then I end up late, and that messes with the consistency. So one of my goals this month as I do the plan as you go is to get better about my consistency so that I can film ahead. Yesterday I filmed this. Today I'm doing the voiceover and it will be going up today. That means it may go up this afternoon. I don't have a specified time for these things. And I know that with the YouTube algorithms and with the creator content gurus that they suggest you upload at a specific time every day when you do your videos, and they want your videos to look a certain way and they want you to do certain things. Well, you know, some of that's great for some people, but I'm trying to keep it real. I don't have time to curate videos. I don't have time to do scripts. I don't have time to do any of that. Now, sometimes it does come off a little bit scripted because I'm reading things from where I wrote down my ideas about the video. And because I have ADHD, I usually either write down what I want to talk about in the coffee chats, or I'll bullet point ideas that I don't want to skip over because I get distracted and I will end up rambling. And then I'll finally make my way back to the original topic, but that doesn't bode well for some videos. It bodes pretty decently for the coffee chats, but not so much for some of these kinds of videos. So those are some of the things that I'm working on, which has to do with the project planning. Now, some people might think of project planning as an actual project, and some of it is a project, but I am the biggest project. Project Self is my biggest project, working on me, getting better about being consistent, growing more, spending better quality family time, friend time, building my relationships more. A lot of these things that have to do with the Miracle Morning, and a lot of things that I've been working on since before I started reading the Miracle Morning. I know for a fact that being on a tentative schedule, having a tentative routine, is much better for my ADHD. It's much better for my anxiety. But I am such a creative, sort of a little bit impulsive, spontaneous kind of person that I still need some freedom. If I change my mind about a topic for a coffee chat on the day that I'm supposed to film the coffee chat, it's okay. I want to be able to allow myself the freedom for some of that. And if I stay slow and steady and I never make it to 100,000 views on a video, or 100,000 subscribers, or 10,000 for that matter, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm doing this so that I can hopefully inspire maybe one person, a handful of people, to do their own thing, to find your way. It's a journey, and it's all about the journey, not your actual destination. I have a paperweight that says that now. It's really for me about living my life and enjoying it, and seeking and spreading joy, as seek joy, y'all, as Arwen would say. But it's also about spreading joy, spreading creativity, spreading inspiration, maybe motivating somebody to pick up a pen and a journal and to write, or to write their novel, or to journal, or to create art. Because if you can doodle, you can paint. I have a book that says that, as a matter of fact. It's by Culhane, and it's one of the ones I've been working on. I'm working on a lot of different projects, and like I said, the biggest project is me. Now, part of this project for me has to do with things like, some of the projects are things like the newsletter, which I actually pay for, y'all. I pay $45 a month for Constant Contact, and they help me send my newsletter out. They help me where I have a template, and it looks a lot like my website. It matches it. Oh my goodness. So that my newsletter didn't look like every other one. So that my newsletter wasn't just some emails that look like every other email that you get that's a newsletter. I wanted my newsletter to be specific to me. I wanted it to be Journey with Burgess. I wanted you to, if you were watching my newsletter videos, or reading the newsletter when it pops up in your email, or reading the blog post that came with the newsletter, I wanted you to be able to look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's Burgess. I didn't want you to look at it and go, oh, well, because I actually have unsubscribed from some newsletters because it's pretty much the same old, same old. I don't want to get a newsletter where it's just telling me the same thing that I've already seen that everybody else has done on YouTube, or everybody else has written a blog post about. I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be unique to me, and I want the newsletter to cover more real life stuff that's going on in the creative arena, sort of, that has to do with journaling and planning and writing, or any of those things. And that's what one of the projects is. Like I said, it's a newsletter. Another project is to do more live videos, to do more live journal with me's, to do more live planning videos, to do more live coffee chats. So I thought May would be a good way to start. Maybe I do a live YouTube video mid-month. Maybe I do 2 different Patreon live videos. But because this month is actually, see here, I've made a mistake. I'm showing them on camera. The first weekend of May, this coming weekend, is Mr. Rockstar's birthday. The next weekend is Mother's Day. So I thought I'd do the live videos for Patreon more towards the end of the month. And that way it would break up some of the monotony. And it gives them a chance to schedule in the live chat, and for us to figure out if that's a good time and date for them. And that's where, so I have a lot of planning. So at the end of this, I'm going to write a note to myself that says, add thank you patrons picture to the end of the official start and to the end of Plan As You Go videos on the 1st and the 31st. Because without Patreon, thanks to YouTube's analytics, I have way more views now, but I have way less revenue now. I have no idea of why that is. I know I'm not the only person who is going through this. But without Patreon and my patrons, I would not be able to afford Constant Contact and the newsletter. You would be getting a generic newsletter. And I'm so glad that I can do the newsletter the way that it is done, so that it is unique to me, so that when you do look at the newsletter, you go, oh, that's Burgess. I like that. But it is thanks to my patrons, because I otherwise would not be able to afford the newsletter, which means I probably wouldn't have even done the newsletter. Which is why they get first-hand views, and they get of the videos, and they get to tell me what they think about them, and it helps me figure out how I want to proceed, and whether it's good and I can keep on going, or whether I need to edit that video or redo it even. I love the constructive criticism. I think that it's necessary, because I am trying to improve, and I don't know how everything works. I am learning. This summer will be my 2-year mark on Patreon, but I feel like it hasn't been that long. It's like Mr. Rockstar and I have been together. This summer will be 7 years, but it does not feel like we have been together that long. And yet it feels like I've known him my whole life. And that's how I feel about a lot of my patrons. Some of them have been with me since the very beginning. And it has been a journey, and I have learned a great deal. Some patrons have come and gone, and some patrons have not. Some patrons have stuck around. And that's with all things. But I have learned and grown, and I think I'm doing much better, but I think that there is room for improvement. And this planner, this master planner, I think is a really good way for me to help build upon what I already have, to get more organized, to figure out some more of my priorities. That monthly task that I'm doing right now is going to be very helpful. The monthly expenses, I'm actually breaking it down to income and expenses so that I can keep better track of things every month, and that will help. I wish I'd had this the beginning of the year, but that's okay. That's okay. We're starting now, and that's what matters. So working together with my Hobonichi and my creative bullet journal, Omni journal, if there's another term that I haven't thought of that I can call it, y'all let me know. I think is a really good way to sort of put everything together. Now, I realize that in Planner Boot Camp, Dawn made it clear, and I signed the little thing. I wasn't supposed to buy anything, and I did buy this, but I feel like this is separate, the project planner, than my regular planner stuff. I haven't bought anything other than this. I do need to buy a few pens. As you've noticed, there I have some pens that have run out of ink. My microns, yeah, you're going to see my microns. I need new microns, y'all. But anyway, this is really helpful. I think it will be very helpful. And I think once I can break down the projects part of this, you're going to get to that in a few moments. Right now, I'm writing down the monthly task. I haven't written all of them down. I will get back to this as I go, and I'll film some more. I need to get a scratch piece of paper, actually a few pieces of scratch paper, and kind of go through and do a brain dump. There's a brain dump section in this. Maybe I'll use it, but I want something I can keep looking back at without flipping to the back of the page for what I'm going to be setting this up with. So once I get to the point where this is completely set up, then I'll feel comfortable writing the brain dumps and things like that for projects in the back of here. But to set this up, I think it's important that I kind of do a brain dump and then do a mind map. That's how it works for me, brain dumping. If y'all want me to do a video about brain dumping and how I go from brain dumping to mind mapping to other things, I will. Just let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. Give me a thumbs up and a comment about that if you would like to see a video about that. There are a lot of videos about brain dumping and mind mapping, but we all do it differently, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And I think that sometimes it's helpful to see how people do them and how different we all do them, so that you can sometimes get ideas. I think there's a line between emulating and copycatting to learn so that you can formulate your own version, and then emulating and copycatting to just emulate and copycat, or emulating and copycatting and not doing anything on your own. Sometimes it works well for you. I'm not judging anybody. I just know that just because things work for other people doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work for me. And I've tried, believe me, to do mandalas and to make it a really pretty mood thing, and I've tried. I don't do well with Zentangle stuff. I don't do well with stuff like that. That's just not me. I don't have the patience to do that kind of thing. I'm much more likely to do something where all I have to do is make a dot, cross it off, draw an X through it, fill in a little square with some color from a marker or a highlighter or something. I'm much more likely to do that kind of thing than I am to do something like a mandala. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I think they're really pretty, but they don't work for everybody. And I don't have the time or the patience to do things like that. A lot of people do all kinds of really cute things, and I have tried some of those spreads, and some of them work pretty well. And I've gone further and made them more my own. Some I've created from scratch. Some spreads I've created from scratch. The guitar thing that I did in my creative bullet journal, my Omni journal, that was all me. That was all me. Now, there are people who have done music themed months. Somebody just did one in April, but theirs was completely different. I don't know that there are any original ideas. I think that there are things that can be merged. There are different ways of looking at things, and we can find our own unique way to do them. And I like that what Alexis has done with this planner is do that. She has taken a lot of different things that are in planning, in the planning community and the bullet journal community and other things, and she's combined them into something that I think is really wonderful. For me, I wouldn't be able to use this as a planner by itself because I need daily stuff. But to use this in conjunction with something else, like a bullet journal or a journal or a Omni journal or something, a Hobonichi, anything really, because there's no, I couldn't find any actual room for dailies in here. She has weekly, monthly. She has broken stuff down so that it's awesome and amazing, some of this stuff. But once you leave this portion, which has, the way that it's set up is you have the calendar, then you have the monthly task, and to the right, the monthly expenses. And then right now what I've been doing is the weekly. You have weekly, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeklies, and then you go to the next month, the next calendar, and then it does the same thing. You have the monthly tasks, the monthly expenses, and then you have 5 of those, and then you go to the next monthly calendar. And then you get to the portion of the planner. I think I'm doing the pen test now. You get to the portion of the planner where it has the project. You have the important projects, and it has a couple of different layouts for that, which I find very interesting and I think will be most helpful. And then you get to what is a section that has room for brain dumps and stuff, and it's called Brilliant Ideas. And to the left you have little squares and lines that say brain dump, and to the right it's partitioned off with 4 squares, and it says organize and act, and it says important, not important, and it says urgent and not urgent, and I like that. Then you get to a section where it goes from brain dump to brainstorm, and then it has plan and prep, and you have the little squares, and you have 9 squares with a box, a horizontal box at the top, and you can date this. And at the top it says brainstorm to the left, and it has tasks, and you have little boxes and lines, and then it has a section for notes, and you have a lot of pages that have that. And then you get to the next section, which says take notes, and you can take notes and date it. And then you have the blank pages at the back. You have an index, which is lined, and it says pages and content, and then you have the blank pages where I'm at right now, and I'm doing the pen test. So what the pen test told me, in essence, is that if you have fountain pens with a very wet ink, it may have some bleed through. A lot of things ghosted, but the only thing that really bled through for me were my fountain pens with the really wet inks. Inks like Noodler's Lexington Gray, the Herbine Rose Scented ink bled through, and then the Toys B Mini with the turquoise ink in it, it bled a little bit, but my Pilot Pereira with carbon pigment ink in it did not bleed through. It did ghost really darkly, but it did not bleed through. The only thing that came close to super ghosting was the Faber-Castell 1.5 in copper, and that's because it's more like a lettering marker kind of pen. But all of the regular pens just ghosted. The mild liner did not bleed through, but it did ghost. So I'm really happy with the paper that's in it. The only flaw that I found in this is there's this little piece of paper. When I flip the page to show you the ghosting, you're going to see this little triangle piece of paper. And that's where they glued this, and they have an extra little piece of paper where it went caught in where the seam went in. And I found it really interesting because I noticed it at first, and then I looked over where the barcode where it said it was made in the USA. And this one was actually made in Columbia, South Carolina on the 27th of April. And Columbia, South Carolina is 45 minutes from where I live, y'all. So I found that very interesting. And in the back of what I have now put this master plan project planner in for me, I have a Taroko Breeze insert, and I have put my Oracle card that says Abundance on the front of it, and it is for more detailed information about projects, because I have used my Jellyfish Dark Unicorn to hold this stuff. I find that it's really helpful for me when I can use things in conjunction with other things. So now we're going to see the pen test. I think I've one more pen maybe. Yeah, I used a bunch of different pens I don't use on a regular basis, but I know that other people do use them in case they wanted to use them. So now you see this little flap right here. That's it right there. And that's the only flaw I could find really with it. So I'm very happy with this. I know that for most people they would use it as a regular planner, but for me, like I said, if I used it as a regular planner, I would still need to use a bullet journal or a Hobonichi or something for dailies. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I enjoyed doing this Plan As You Go. It is the official one. This is the day one, because before that was just kind of trial and error. I really like how she set up the planner. It's definitely functional. It can be more creative if you choose to make it more creative. Like I said, I will be adding washi tape to it. I doubt very seriously if I use very many stickers at all. I like stickers, but I don't really know how to use them in a planner. So I hope that you've enjoyed, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, all.